Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Squirrel Girl Universe by Tristan Palmgren. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. It is from Aconite, and it is part of their Marvel Heroines line. And in this book, Doreen Green, also known as the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, she and her friends get thrown across the galaxy light years away from Earth, have to find a way back home, and get into all sorts of shenanigans and adventures and such. And that's it in a nutshell, because I really want to start digging into this with you, and I'm going to start off by saying that I gave this 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. Now, I can hear you right now. Eric, are you crazy? You're asking me. How can you give Squirrel Girl Universe 5 out of 5 stars? It's not War and Peace. It's not To Kill a Mockingbird. It's not even Stephen King's The Stand. How is this book 5 out of 5 stars? Well, let me tell you. All right, first of all, this is my channel. These are my opinions. So I can rate it whatever I want. How's that for being confrontational? Look, I've been a Squirrel Girl fan for a long time. Decades and decades. Since her introduction in comic books, which I believe was in Iron Man. I meant to look that up. But I've been a big fan. She's a fun character. The fact that she is unbeatable. That Squirrel Girl has taken down Doctor Doom and Thanos and these crazy characters that will wipe out the Avengers, and then Squirrel Girl can come along and just take them out. I've always enjoyed that. And then she's had this sort of resurgence. I don't know if it started with Brian Michael Bendis writing her as the babysitter for Jessica Jones and Luke Cage's child, and sort of put her with the Avengers. I think that was Bendis doing that. Don't take my word for it. And then, of course, we got the comic book, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, by Erica Henderson and Ryan North. And that introduces, I think that's the series that introduces most of the characters that are in this book, which are her best friend Nancy and her team, Coy Boy, Chipmunk Hunk, his girlfriend Mary, and Brain Drain, and of course, Tippy Toe, right there. As a matter of fact, I was on Twitter and ended up interacting a little bit with the author here, and I said I got the new Tippy Toe novel. I call it Tippy Toe's Adventures. I don't know how well you can see the little squirrel right there. That's Tippy Toe. So I'm a huge fan of the character. There was a podcast radio show that was hilarious, and I could hear the characters when I was reading the book. I heard the voice actors from that show. But am I digressing? I don't know. I'm talking about why I gave this 5 out of 5. And one of the reasons is this book really captures the voice, the character of Squirrel Girl. Now, it is in first person, so Doreen is our narrator. And there are footnotes as well as editorial footnotes. There's a special super secret editor, and that was a lot of fun. But the author really captures the voice, the feel of Squirrel Girl and her friends and her adventures and the comic and everything. So points for that, for just it feels like Squirrel Girl. I've read some novels based on comic books and things that just don't, to me anyway, feel like I'm reading a comic book. Does that make sense? But this really does. Really, really captures her voice. But you say, hey, that's fine. How does that make it 5 out of 5? I'm not finished. This is a very smart book. It's a funny book. right off the bat, I was reminded of Douglas Adams. Now, look, it's not as funny as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I still say is the funniest book I've ever read. And it actually reminded me, I think, a little more of the Dirk Gently stuff, because this book gets, I think, metaphysical would be the proper term to use. Esoteric, maybe? So, Squirrel Girl and Nancy are heading to class when they notice something going on. And so they investigate. There's some cameos from the wider Marvel Universe. And then things happen. And as I said in my quick little nutshell, they're flung across the universe. And so they're trying to find their way home, they need to find where Earth is. They need to find a way to get there. They run into a creature that's from the comics that's going to help them out. And then they end up on this space station. And both the creature that's helping them, I guess I can say, because it's on the back, we'll call it a space whale. From that point, from the space whale to the space station, things get really, really interesting and smart and weird and meta. And I don't want to go into the details of what these things are for fear of spoiling them. But it's a really, for a novel about a girl with the powers of a squirrel whose catchphrase is eating nuts and kicking butts. This is a very, very smart book. And I love the character. I love that to Doreen Green, swearing is saying gosh and heck and darn. And there's a point where she says, like, darn something or whatever. And one of her friends is like, I don't like it when you swear. It's endearing. She's such a great character. And this is such an interesting, thought-provoking, philosophical, bizarre, engaging book. I think I covered all the different ways I wanted to put it. So for me, is it To Kill a Mockingbird? Of course not. It's not a literary classic, but it's sharp, it's engaging, it's entertaining, it's fun. It captures the character that it's representing. If you want to take the time, you can dig into some philosophical ideas. And so for me, I put all that together, and this is a 5 out of 5 book. And I mean, I guess you could say this is potentially the problem with having a rating system like this, that you give, again, let's say War and Peace gets 5 out of 5, this gets 5 out of 5. How are you going to compare those two books? But it meets the criteria for me. I feel like I'm being defensive about this, but what I'm trying to do is convince you that it's worth reading. I don't know how much of my audience, I know a lot of my audience is here for the horror book reviews, and I do throw curveballs in every once in a while, but I'm a huge comic book fan, and I was so excited for this book. I knew that as soon as this arrived, I would finish whatever book I was currently reading, and this was the next book up. There was no, some books I'm excited for them, but they get put on the TBR. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and it did not disappoint. I gave it 5 out of 5. I don't regret giving it 5 out of 5. I think it deserves 5 out of 5. And I think if you are interested in something sharp and funny and smart and just interesting with endearing characters. Brain Drain, such a great character. Koi Boy and Chipmunk Hunk, I've never been really sold on those two, but I love Squirrel Girl and her relationship with Nancy. Their friendship is fantastic, and Brain Drain is just so much fun. And then there are other characters that are introduced that really, I mean, this is a mind-bending book. You wouldn't think it. It's Squirrel Girl, but it really gets into some stuff about reality, and I recommend it. I get it, if you're really into the horror, if you're really anti-comic book character, but it's so good. Squirrel Girl Universe, Tristan Palmgren. They've written a number of these Aconite books, and I think I have them all. Most in the heroines line, but one in the School of X, or whatever the other X-Men line is. But either way, none of that matters for this, which is, come on, give it a try. Squirrel Girl Universe, Tristan Palmgren, Aconite books, 5 out of 5. Excuse me. Highly recommended. I didn't think of a question for this video ahead of time, so let's ask you this. How do you feel about a book that turns out to be quite different than you were expecting? For good or bad. In this particular case, obviously, I think it was good, but I expected a lighthearted, fun Squirrel Girl adventure. I didn't expect all of this heady scientific and philosophical stuff that was going on. I didn't expect to be reminded of Douglas Adams and Dirk Gently, but I'm so happy that that's what this book is. But what are your thoughts on that? If you're expecting to go in with, I don't know, some creepy gothic horror, and it turns out that, well, I know how one person would answer this, but it turns out that there's a huge romance subplot. I don't know. I'm just saying. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But are you pleasantly surprised when a book turns out to be more than you're expecting, or does that bother you? You sat down to read, you think you're reading this type of book. Does it bother you when it turns out it's not actually what you thought it was going to be? Hopefully that question makes sense, because I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. All that YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH5757. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.